Judith Myers. Judith's death is over in seconds with minimal physical pain. We see a single stab wound to the chest in her bedroom that happens immediately after 6-year-old Michael puts on the clown mask. The 1978 film shows a brief struggle then immediate collapse with no prolonged screaming or visible suffering. Death occurs off-camera initially, revealed through young Michael's perspective rather than graphic detail. The horror comes from the shock of a child killing his sister, not torture. But this clean kill was nothing compared to what Michael would do in hospitals, because when he got to Haddonfield Memorial, the deaths got nastier, and Michael started experimenting with different methods. Nurse Jill Franco. This kill happens in Halloween 2, and you can already see Michael getting more creative with his methods. Michael lifts her completely off the ground with a scalpel jammed into her back, right between the shoulder blades. The scalpel placement suggests direct spinal cord damage, with no screaming or prolonged struggle shown on screen. Her body goes limp immediately, indicating rapid nervous system shutdown. Halloween 2's hospital setting allows for this medical precision in kills, with Michael showing knowledge from his asylum stays. Spinal cord damage at this level causes immediate paralysis and rapid death. The medical precision was child's play compared to Michael's asylum escape. Ismael Cruz. Ismael was one of the kindest characters in the entire franchise, which made his death even more tragic. Ismael was genuinely trying to help Michael and other patients. After Ismael tries to put handcuffs on Michael, he crashes out. He repeatedly dunks Ismael's head in water before using a heavy CRT television as a bludgeoning weapon. We see him throw it on Ismael's head. Those old CRT TVs weighed 50 pounds, so when Michael throws it at his head, the impact is devastating. Severe head trauma from a television weighing over 50 pounds causes immediate brain injury and rapid loss of consciousness. The skull simply can't withstand that kind of force. But when Halloween Kills brought Michael back, he got creative with anatomy and started focusing on specific body parts. Big John. This scene happens in the Myers house. Michael uses his bare thumbs to crush both of Big John's eyes simultaneously, pressing them deep into the skull. Halloween Kills shows the gruesome detail of eye destruction with Big John, a large man who's probably 6'4" and built like a big linebacker, completely helpless against Michael's supernatural strength. The eye sockets cave in under the pressure, and you can actually hear the wet crushing sound in the movie. Eye trauma, this severe causes immediate shock and unconsciousness, with brain damage from the pressure being fatal quickly. Though it looks absolutely horrific, the actual suffering time is minimal. But his partner, Little John's fate was even worse. Little John. The psychological aspect makes this death particularly cruel. He has to see what happened to Big John first. Little John discovers Big John's mutilated body first, with emotional trauma before the physical attack amplifying the horror. Michael stabs him multiple times rather than delivering a single killing blow. He's crying and screaming about Big John when Michael starts stabbing him. The knife goes in maybe 4 or 5 times, hitting different areas, but none immediately fatal. Multiple wounds mean vital organs get damaged gradually rather than instantly, keeping consciousness longer than a single fatal blow would. Each stab wound bleeds and hurts, but none hits the heart or major arteries directly. The victim stays aware and in pain for maybe 30 to 40 seconds. Judith Myers. Rob Zombie's version of Michael is bigger, stronger, and angrier than Carpenter's original. Rob Zombie uses a much larger kitchen knife than the original 1978 version with multiple hacking motions shown rather than a single stab. Judith remains partially conscious during the attack, with the 2007 version emphasizing Michael's size and strength advantage. Multiple strikes with a large knife mean the victim stays conscious for several seconds of attack, maximizing suffering through awareness. Each hack causes massive tissue damage and bleeding, but the vital organs aren't hit immediately. Jamie Lloyd. This death happens in Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which most fans pretend doesn't exist, but the kill itself is genuinely brutal. Jamie gets impaled on corn thresher machinery in a barn setting. This agricultural equipment is designed to cut and separate organic matter, with Jamie remaining conscious during the impalement process. The corn thresher has rotating blades and crushing mechanisms that grab Jamie and pull her in. She's stuck in the machinery while it's still running, cutting and grinding at her body. Corn thresher blades cause massive internal damage, while the victim stays aware, with mechanical consistency creating ongoing trauma rather than a single wound. The machinery doesn't stop once it starts, so the cutting and crushing continues for several seconds while Jamie is still conscious. The innocent husband. This scene in Halloween Kills shows Michael's evolution from efficient killer to someone who's genuinely curious about how different weapons work. Halloween Kills shows Michael using multiple different kitchen knives, with each stabbing motion appearing deliberate and experimental. The victim survives multiple wounds before the final killing blow, with Michael taking time between each stab to observe the effects. He tries a paring knife first, then a carving knife, then a cleaver. Between each stab, Michael pauses and looks at the wound, like he's studying the results. Different weapons mean the victim stays conscious for an extended period, while Michael learns rather than just kills efficiently. Each knife creates different wound patterns and pain levels, with the victim aware of each each new injury. The experimental approach prolongs suffering unnecessarily, turning murder into research. Sandra. This scene in Halloween Kills is particularly cruel because of the helpless witness element. Michael stabs a fluorescent light tube through Sandra's neck, with the jagged glass creating an irregular wound that doesn't sever major arteries cleanly. Sandra doesn't die immediately, writhing in pain while her paralyzed husband Phil watches helplessly from his wheelchair. The fluorescent tube breaks into sharp fragments that tear through her throat irregularly. She's gurgling and struggling while Phil can only watch from across the room. Fluorescent tube glass creates a jagged wound that bleeds slowly rather than delivering a clean, fatal cut, maintaining consciousness longer through this inefficient killing method. The psychological element of dying in front of her helpless husband amplifies the trauma. Cameron Elam. This kill in Halloween Kills goes on forever and shows Michael's increasing sadism. Cameron gets beaten down an entire staircase with multiple impacts, with Michael smashing him through stair railings, causing additional injuries. Cameron survives the beating and is shown twitching and conscious before Michael finally kills him by twisting his head as a finishing move. The wooden railings splinter when Cameron crashes through them, creating cuts and puncture wounds on top of the blunt force trauma. Multiple stair impacts cause broken ribs, limbs, and internal bleeding, while the victim remains conscious throughout since there are no immediate fatal wounds. The beating lasts maybe 2 minutes of screen time, with Cameron aware and in pain for all of it. When Michael finally twists his head, it's almost a mercy killing at that point. Annie Brackett. This death in Halloween 2 is psychologically devastating because of the isolation and awareness. Annie survives her first encounter with Michael in Halloween 2, then gets stabbed and left to bleed out slowly on the floor. No immediate help arrives, leaving her alone with her injuries while she remains conscious and aware she's dying. She's lying there for several minutes, getting weaker and weaker, knowing that death is coming but unable to do anything about it. The psychological torture of that awareness makes the physical pain worse. Gradual blood loss maintains consciousness while strength fades, and isolation prevents any possibility of help or comfort during the dying process. The victim has time to contemplate death, feel fear, and experience despair on top of physical pain. The screaming woman in the bathroom. Halloween 2018 saved its most brutal kill for an unnamed character, making it even more shocking. The woman gets cornered in a public restroom with no escape route available. Michael slams her into walls and the toilet multiple times before the final kill, with her jaw violently ripped open while she remains conscious and struggling. The victim screams throughout the entire attack, showing consciousness and awareness of every moment. She hits the toilet, the sink, the walls, each impact causing new injuries and pain. Then Michael grabs her jaw with both hands and literally tears it apart. Multiple impacts with hard surfaces cause extensive trauma, but jaw destruction while conscious creates maximum possible facial pain. The extended duration means the victim experiences every second of the attack with full awareness, representing the franchise's complete evolution from efficient killing to prolonged sadistic torture. Bob Sims. Bob heads to the kitchen for a beer after spending time with his girlfriend Linda in the Wallace house. Michael Myers surprises him, slamming him against a wall and lifting him off the ground by his throat. Michael then thrusts a kitchen knife into Bob's chest, pinning him to the wall like a specimen. Bob's legs and feet kick desperately as he slowly suffocates and bleeds out, dying over a prolonged and agonizing sequence while literally hanging there. The combination of suffocation and bleeding creates a drawn-out death where Bob remains conscious throughout. He's essentially crucified on the wall, aware of both the knife wound and his inability to breathe, making this one of the franchise's most torturous kills. Marcus. Marcus and his partner Vanessa are ambushed by Michael in their home after hearing suspicious noises. Michael grabs Marcus and violently slams him into furniture, then repeatedly stabs him with different knives in quick succession. Despite Marcus's attempts to fight back and flee, he is subdued and stabbed again, suffering multiple deep wounds before finally dying. Vanessa watches in horror as her partner gets butchered right in front of her. Multiple stab wounds with different weapons mean Marcus stays conscious longer than a single fatal blow would allow. Each knife creates different damage patterns, prolonging the dying process while he's fully aware of each new injury. Mikey finds his car vandalized and encounters Michael Myers posing as a mechanic. Michael attacks Mikey with a 3-pronged metal garden claw, and the assault is extended and graphic. Michael repeatedly bludgeons Mikey's head and face at close range with the garden tool. Mikey screams and struggles as blood flows, dying slowly and painfully from the repeated trauma. The 3-pronged claw creates multiple puncture wounds with each strike. The garden claw's design means each impact creates 3 separate puncture wounds simultaneously. The repeated bludgeoning to the head keeps Mikey conscious longer than blunt force trauma normally would, maximizing both pain and awareness during the attack. Joe Grizzly. Joe Grizzly enters a rest stop bathroom where Michael has taken refuge during his escape. Joe tries to defend himself with a hunting knife, but is overpowered when Michael bursts from the stall. The fight turns brutal and close quarters as Michael slams Joe into walls, beats him with overwhelming strength, and stabs him in the stomach. The altercation is prolonged, with Joe howling and resisting as bones break, and the knife is twisted into him until he finally finally succumbs in agony. The stomach stabbing combined with bone breaking creates maximum suffering without immediate death. Joe remains conscious throughout the beating and stabbing, experiencing every broken bone and feeling the knife being twisted inside his abdomen before finally dying. If you enjoyed this nightmare fuel, you'll love my video about the most painful deaths in Scream. Click it on screen